Well, thank you so much for staying with me, and thanks again to Bull Country Compost. Like I said before the break, we're going to talk a little bit about Bull Country Compost, and many of you have been using it in your gardens to amend the soil. But this past week, we had a couple come in 2 times and pick up Bull Country Compost with their pickup truck, and they were buying it bulk. And I said, boy, the soil in your garden is going to be just amazing after all of this compost that you're putting in. And they said, oh no, we mulch our beds with this. And they were like, and I was sort of like the shock look because, it is a little bit more expensive than regular hardwood double ground mulch, which we carry also. And she's like, is that okay? And I said, it's wonderful, actually. Most people don't think about that. But they really wanted to use the compost to enrich their beds because they have some of their vegetables growing in their flower beds, sort of like an edible landscape. So instead of using a hardwood mulch, they choose to mulch their beds with Bull Country Compost. So you can just imagine how wonderful their soil is in their landscaped flower beds. So using that Bull Country Compost. So it does have a lot of benefits, not just amending the soil in your vegetable garden, but also I really like to use it even if I'm not going to mulch all of my beds with it, but around my annuals. And I like to do that because sometimes hardwood mulch will have, even though it's double ground, it will still have some large, chunkier pieces that is hard on your herbaceous plants. And when, those little tender stems, but that Bull Country Compost is a more fine grind. And so it works as like a mulch, holding in moisture, reducing weeds, also feeding them, but it's really gentle on their stems. And so you will see a huge difference in the size of your annuals, how quickly they grow if you mulch in around your annuals and even your perennials with the Bull Country Compost instead of your mulch. So a lot of people that do get mulch and they have taken me up on my ideas of mulching around their annuals. They put their mulch in, and then wherever they plant their annual flowers in their flower beds, they just get a bag of Bull Country Compost and mulch in around them with that Bull Country Compost. And it blends in very nicely with either the black or the brown mulch, so you can use it that way, and it works out very well. Also, a lot of folks that are doing container gardening and they use potting soil in their containers, we recommend that you add a little bit of the Bull Country Compost in with them. It's going to enrich that potting soil. It will give it a little heavier, dense a feel to it, and a lot of times it won't dry out quite as quickly as just a peat-based potting mix. And you have wonderful luck with that in your containers as well, because we always tell folks not to put topsoil in a container because it is too heavy and it gets like a brick in those containers. Something that has a earth bottom is different, but if you have plastic or a wood bottom in your containers, your raised beds, and you put actual earth topsoil, even if it is a really good topsoil, it gets really, really hard when there is a bottom and 4 sides or around it. It's completely enclosed in a substance beside the top. That soil gets very, very dense and hard, and so that will really restrict your root system from growing, which a restricted root system is going to restrict the size of the plant as well. But that Bull Country Compost mixed in with your potting soil, you will find just works out very, very well in your raised container gardening and how it feeds everything, and it works very, very well in those containers. So we like to use it in several aspects. We wanted to talk about Millorganite for a couple minutes, and this is going to be the application of fertilizer that you're using on your lawns now. Now, your first application, which was usually about the first part of April, was the corn gluten meal, and that was your pre-emergent herbicide and your high nitrogen fertilizer that will give you a boost and get you greened up early in the spring, and it's also going to help control those weeds in your lawn, anything that's an annual weed. That's what your corn gluten meal did. And now your application, your next is just to feed the lawn to keep everything going well as temperatures rise, and usually we have less rain. The Millorganite is not going to burn your lawn. It's going to work very, very well. And we have a couple customers that diligently, they're using Millorganite probably more than they need to, but they really like to have a very lush, thick green lawn. So they're doing Millorganite instead of like twice a year and then doing a corn gluten application spring and fall. They're actually doing a Millorganite application about every 6 weeks because they have this desire to have a lawn that looks like a golf course. And they do have this kind of lawn. But their question, actually, his name is Mark, and Mark is he should go to work for Millorganite. They should hire him because he is a crazy fan and talks about it all the time. But he didn't know that it was also a great fertilizer for his vegetables and his flowers. And so he was in actually one day this week, and we were talking about Millorganite and how wonderful we both thought it was. But he was having some issues with some squash, and they were starting to leach out some nutrients in his garden. And he's like, they're already lightening up. We've had so much rain. We had some cool temperatures, and my squash plants just aren't looking good. And I said, well, you have Millorganite, right? You always have it because you're putting it on your lawn all the time. Throw a little Millorganite on your vegetable garden. It's not going to burn anything, and it's really going to help get that nitrogen back into the soil, and it's really going to, green up your plants. And so if you were not aware of how wonderful Millorganite is for your lawn, also great for trees and shrubs. It's a great starter fertilizer if you're putting in a new lawn, but also so good for your vegetable plants. About 4 pounds will cover about 50 square feet. And or if you're doing, like if you're doing it per plant, an established plant, a half a cup sprinkled around the drip line of that plant. But you are going to see, how great your vegetable plants look, and a couple applications throughout the year is really going to keep everything going really, really well. It's also a great fertilizer to use when you are putting in your annual flowers, as well as, like if you're adding more perennials, it's going to work great for that. And also a lot of people really like Millorganite for their roses. And like if you have the knockout roses and you really want them to keep blooming the whole entire season, I always tell you, make sure that you're deadheading. But adding an additional application of fertilizer mid-season. So we always say, fertilize spring and fall. But on your knockout roses, or anything that is a continual bloomer throughout the season. Knockout roses, endless summer hydrangeas, even some of your repeat blooming daylilies, also your bloomerang lilacs, anything that's going to give more bloom throughout the year than just one little season, is going to use more nutrients because it takes a lot of nutrients from the plant to produce a bloom. That's why a lot of times we'll tell you, if you want a plant to bulk up itself, trim off the bud as soon as you see them forming so that the nutrients that the plant is taking in goes to enlarging the plant and making it more robust than trying to push a bloom out right then, because it takes so much of its energy to push out that bloom. So because of that, and when at this time of the year we want things to be blooming, that additional application of fertilizer is really going to help. And that Millorganite, again, because of it not burning, is going to be a great fertilizer to do that mid-season application to really help things go, going very, very well there. But Millorganite is also really good for a deer repellent. And a lot of people they're like, Millorganite, that's like a fertilizer. But it does have an odor that, we don't really notice too much after a few minutes of putting the application down. But a lot of animals hate the smell of it. So if you have issues with deer, and a lot of you do, putting down the Millorganite is like a twofer. You're fertilizing the plant, that's going to be great, but also the smell of it really deters the deer. So you can deter the deer, feed the plant all in one pop. It also works pretty well for rabbits. So if you are dealing with that, or those critters, that's going to be a good way to deter them and get a good fertilizer application down all at the same time. Well, we are into June now, and a lot of people have been coming in this week, and they're freaking out because they haven't got their gardens in and no one has plants. So we just want to assure you that we still have vegetable plants. Now, of course, there are a few things that we are out of, but we have substitutions for them. So we are out of Hungarian wax peppers, the medium hot variety. But we do have the Rico pepper, which is very, very similar in heat, a little different color. It's going to be a little darker green and going to a red color, but the heat is going to be about the same. Also, we are out of the early girl tomato, but we do have other earlier tomatoes that you could choose from. So if you haven't got your garden in yet and you are all worried, or if you know of someone that hasn't got their garden in yet and they're worried that they're going to find anything, and there are a lot of places that doesn't grow their own and they bring plants in from somewhere else that are out of vegetables. There are places that even grow their own that are out of vegetable plants. This has been an exceptional year for vegetable plants. And we want to thank all of you, all of us independent people that grow our own. We all want to thank you for, deciding that it's the year to grow a garden. But we still have a nice selection of tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, squashes, including zucchini. We still have cabbage and broccoli and cauliflower and kohlrabi and all of those odd things that a lot of places are sold out of. So if you are wanting to still do your vegetable garden, we want you to come on over and take advantage of that. And we still have some beautiful flowers as well. And if you're not sure how to put a container together, you bring a picture of your pot and the dimensions of it, and we can help you choose flowers. It's going to fill your containers at home to make you have lovely, beautiful containers and decorate your porches and your decks and different things like that. So if you have those questions, feel free to come on over or give us a shout on Facebook at Anthony Petitti Organic Greenhouse. Shoot us a message there. Email me at cindypetitti@gmail.com or give us a call at 330-455-5997 or stop over at the store at 5828 Columbus Road, right there on the corner of Columbus Road and Broadway. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. We'll be right back with you next Saturday, the 13th at 8 a.m. Thanks so much and have a blessed week.